Thanks for joining me again this week. On Saturday morning, we had a devastating fire that impacted dozens of families in Clarksburg. The fire left 24 apartments uninhabitable and displaced 43 residents. 2 residents were treated for minor injuries and 3 family pets were killed. While the investigation is still ongoing, it's been determined that this was an act of arson and the juvenile suspect was charged. The suspect was identified quickly because there are 2 other prior incidents tied to the suspect that were very similar. I do want to thank our first responders and our partners for their quick response to this fire. It started with the firefighters who helped get the people to safety and put the flames out. More than 75 firefighters were called to the scene and 4 were hurt, though luckily none of them was critically injured. The Red Cross and the Department of Health and Human Services have been working closely to help fulfill the needs of the families. They work to provide temporary shelter for some victims, while other volunteers, like the Clarksburg Closet, supplied essentials like clothes and toiletries. If you have any questions or need help directly from the county, please call our DHHS navigation phone line at 240-777-4141. Also, if you want to help families impacted by the fire, the county has joined with MHP to identify unmet needs and to manage donations. Visit our mhpartners.org for more details. Last week I discussed the gold bar scam and how the state's attorney's office filed charges against 5 people after nearly $3 million had been stolen from the victims. This is a nationwide problem that's originating outside the United States, but it's taken hold here in Montgomery County as well. Several other cases are still under investigation, bringing the estimated amount of money lost to about $6 million. This week for my weekly media briefing, I was joined by State Attorney John McCarthy.
I think that the number one way that we need to protect the people in this community, and I'm joining with the county executive and my
to talk about the case, as well as to highlight efforts being made across our county to protect older adults. It's a national poll conducted by the University of Michigan focused on healthy aging, found that over the past 2 years, 75% of adults aged 50 to 80 reported experiencing a scam attempt, and 30% actually experienced fraud. I'd have to include myself in the crowd of 75% who someone or some entity has tried to scam, sometimes repeatedly. Again, in my case, repeatedly. I'm fortunate that I have not been the victim of fraud, but I can see how easy it is to be taken advantage of. Older adults facing cognitive or physical challenges are more likely to be the target of a scam and have worse fraud experience compared to those in better health. These are alarming figures, and with new technology and more sophisticated methods, we have to expect that this may well get worse. The same survey found that 83% of older adults want to know more about how to protect themselves from scams, and nearly all believe that policymakers and companies should do a better job of protecting people from scams. The county's Office of Consumer Protection was established in 1971 to ensure a fair marketplace for consumers and businesses within Montgomery County. Its mission is as clear today as it was back then, to protect against fraud, to protect the welfare and safety of the public and honest businesses. Imposter scams in many forms remain a common way that people lose their money. Our Department of Health and Human Services is also focused on the financial exploitation of vulnerable adults. Adult Protective Services follows on tips from the public to help protect our aging population from abuse, neglect, and becoming victims of financial crimes. Around 1/3 of the cases investigated by APS this year involved accusations of financial exploitation. When you look back over the last decade, there's been a 76% increase in cases involving financial crime allegations in Montgomery County alone. All 3 of these groups and more work together to educate, prevent, and respond to the victimization of older adults. I want to share some important phone numbers that could help victims and family members that want to report anything strange. The Adult Protective Services hotline is 240-777-3000. It's available any hour, every day of the week. The Office of Consumer Protection has an anonymous tip line, which is 240-777-3681. And county residents can also call 311 for help. This week also saw more incidents of vandalism in our community. Teachers returned to school on Monday to prepare for the start of the new school year, and in some places they were greeted with hate language. Graffiti featuring anti-Semitic language, swastikas, and slurs targeting the LGBTQ+ community were found on 4 school campuses. Every incident was reported Monday morning between 6:30 and 9:30. The schools targeted by the vandals were Churchill, Wooten, as well as Fallsmead and Strathmore Elementary Schools. In an email to parents, MCPS leaders expressed shock, despite this coming just 1 week after similar incidents at nearby Bethesda Elementary School. One incident might be shocking, but the repetition of these incidents is a serious problem. People are entitled to their opinions, and there's no lack of places to express them, but defacing property and targeting schools and houses of worship is not acceptable. It is especially troubling that many of these messages are targeting an audience of young people who we already know are struggling in the aftermath of COVID with the social and emotional challenges that it created. Inciting hate doesn't help. These are disturbing acts that seek to divide our community. There's nothing to be gained by doing this, other than to inflame the current situation and turn neighbor against neighbor. That is not who we are, and I'm confident there are far more people in Montgomery County who are horrified by these attacks than supportive of them. We will work to stop what's going on by stepping up security and police patrols as necessary. All hate incidents and graffiti like this should be reported to 301-279-8000. And I want to remind people that if we catch you, we will prosecute you. We are serious about this. We're serious about finding out who's doing it. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about continuing this episode of yours.
Despite their differences, all of our children shared a common struggle in that our society made it very difficult for them to even admit that they had a problem.
Next Thursday, we honored the lives lost to overdoses as part of International Overdose Awareness Day. In the last few years, we saw a surge in intoxication deaths, peaking in 2021. Last year, we saw that surge impact our youth with a spike in youth overdoses and elevated concern in our community for families desperate for answers. There have been many community conversations about the risks of drug use since then. Many people now understand the dangers of fentanyl and how deadly it can be. You can also rely on montgomerycountymd.gov/opioids for information. In addition to increasing education, we've been able to share Narcan with more communities and people. The anti-overdose drug has helped save lives, yet opioids and fentanyl remain dangerous. I hope you're able to attend this year's ceremony honoring overdose victims, which will be held on Thursday, August 29th at the Executive Office Building in Rockville. It will start with the resource fair at 5 p.m. The Montgomery County Goes Purple Recovery Month event begins at 6:30 p.m. That will be followed by a candlelight vigil at 7:30. Montgomery County can connect families looking for help from community-based organizations. You can call Access Team at 240-777-1770 if you need help finding a treatment program. If you need our crisis center, that number is available 24/7 at 240-777-4000. Last week I was in Ocean City for the Maryland Association of Counties Summer Conference. Among the topics we focused on were childcare, Medicaid, and K-12 education. There was also a lot of discussion and sessions regarding the impact of AI on local governments. Several of our county employees were on panels, and initiatives led by our employees were spotlighted, such as Montgomery County Police Department's Drone as First Responder program. On the final day of the conference, we heard from Maryland Governor Wes Moore, and I appreciated the governor's candor about the challenges we face and his optimism that Maryland can prevail. He understands how addressing social issues gives everyone a better opportunity to succeed. I appreciate the governor's understanding that we have to restore Maryland as the leader in public education, and that working with counties is going to be important if we're going to get this done. Solving the state's revenue issues is central to achieving this, and the governor was also very clear that the state is facing structural budget and revenue challenges. At MACo, I look at every opportunity to share my thoughts with county and state leaders about tax reforms, more local tax authority, and a progressive tax rate. All things that can be done while reducing the tax burden on most residents, as well as enabling us to build the infrastructure we need to support and foster economic growth. This is the path that Northern Virginia took more than a dozen years ago to great success, as a lot of people like to remind us. But our county and our state ignored that, and we're suffering for the fact that we haven't taken into consideration the path that Virginia decided to go on. I look forward to continuing these conversations with state and county leaders as well as our residents over the coming months prior to the 2025 General Assembly session. So, school begins next Monday, August 26th. I want to wish everyone a happy and safe start to the school year, including new MCPS Superintendent Dr. Thomas Taylor. I would also like to remind all MCPS families to take advantage of the Back to School Fair this Saturday, August 24th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Westfield Wheaton. This event is an opportunity to learn about the school system, county programs and services that help families, and it will also feature a free immunization clinic, music, and giveaways. There are free shuttles to the event from 6 area high schools: Gaithersburg, Richard Montgomery, Montgomery Blair, Paint Branch, and John F. Kennedy and Wheaton high schools. That's a wrap for today. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to being back with you again soon.